Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football, where we talk football from beginning to end, from A to Z, along with our founder, the co-host, really the producer, and everything that is in charge of it. Vincent Turner is below us here. Vincent, welcome back. You weren't with us last week. We talked a little bit post Super Bowl, but now you're back, and today we're brought to you along with a very special guest, Matt Little, who joins us from Baltimore. He's in the Ravens offices that they have right now. Matt is the senior manager and the legacy engagement officer there with the Baltimore Ravens. But Vincent, first and foremost, welcome back to the show. We missed you last week.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be back. Had to be home with my mom's doing the situation, but everything is good. I'm excited today because we got royalty in the house. We got talent in the house. And to our fans of 100 Yards of Football, that's right, baby. It's a Baltimore Raven in the house. So let's get this party started. Mr. Matt Little, we'd like to say thank you today for coming on 100 Yards of Football. Back to you, Hawk.
Well, Matt, yes, and the same welcome for me. And by the way, Logan Landers is our producer and engineer. He's off stage at the moment. But Matt, you've been with the organization for going on 18 years. Most people would say you should have plenty of gray hair and be loaded with wrinkles. You're so young right now. You must have been 5 or 6 years old when you first joined the organization. You've been there longer than John Harbaugh has.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Nice to be on, Harper and Vincent. Thanks for having me on the show today. And yeah, it's been a great run here at the Ravens on the front office side of things. So I did start here very soon out of college, or while I was in college, interning actually. So it's actually the only job I ever really had. I did one summer at the Orioles, helping out doing an internship. But besides that, I have been at the Ravens my entire career. So I know nothing else but working here, which is a good thing because it's such a great place to be with a lot of great people and a lot of success around here too.
We'll obviously get into the past a little bit, but for obviously you started with, you said the Baltimore Orioles, you were an intern there with them for a while. Was that also while you were in college?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was in college, just did a summer internship there during my sophomore year, I believe it was. But most of my time was here at the Ravens and internships from game day and training camp and full season. And then just when I was graduating, they had a spot here and just kind of slid right into there. And they haven't asked me to leave yet, so I just keep showing up around here.
So you're used to short hours, big pay, and not having to worry about anything, right? You don't have to worry about winning or being successful.
No, it's just been so cushy ever since. It's been great. Yeah, it's been it's a lot of hours and time, especially during the season and all. But it's a lot of great people to work with, and great people in the building, great people like yourself, Harper, who played here, who I'm able to work with as well. So it's been a blessing.
Well, we're glad to have you, so to speak, as an alumni speaking for so many of the others. I don't have the authority to do so, but it's so important to have some sort of a connection point between the team or the organization where you played and the past becoming not necessarily relevant, but reconnecting then with the present. And you're one of the guys that do that. Talk a little bit about your specific role, your job duty, and some of the folks that are around you that help assess what it is your specific title allows you to take care of in terms of your professional relationship with the organization.
Yeah, for sure. So work in the legacy engagement department here, which technically falls under our marketing department. But the main crux of what we're looking to do in the legacy engagement is to keep guys connected who played here. We try to do 3 things: connect guys, inform guys, and honor guys. Connect guys back to each other, back to teammates, back to the organization, through reunions, through different team outings, things like that. We try to support guys. Guys can be going through a whole range of things: physical, mental, jobs, a bunch of different stuff. Always trying to make sure guys are informed of all the things going on, and not even during bad things either. Sometimes they're just like cool perks that come along with being a Ravens legend and being a legend in the NFL, that the NFL offers, the team offers. So making sure guys are informed of all the resources are available to them, and then honoring guys too. To make it to the NFL it's a very small percentage. To play at the Ravens, we've only had just around like 600 guys who have earned a credited season with the team. So it's a very small group to be a part of. So honoring guys for those achievements then too, because what they did, what you did playing here, isn't just reserved to just on the field. The attributes, the character, the commitment, the person that it took to get on the field here is successful in so many other areas of life too, that we want to make sure we're building guys up, and they know that too, because it can go assumed a lot, but I think it to be said at times too is impactful. So I'm able to work with some great people here. We have great buy-in from ownership, general manager, head coach, all throughout the building to want to support former players, whether that's when they're here physically in person, coming back to games, coming back to practices, or throughout the country then too, and helping with things as things are needed, or just checking in, and again making guys feel that they're still part of the organization. I know a lot of teams say like once a Raven, always a Raven, once a Raider, always a Raider. I think that is a little cliche. I think everybody says it, so I'm not a huge fan of it. But the sentiment is still the same. Like once you've played here, you're still a part of this for however many years. We're going on our 30th season coming up this coming season. So 30 seasons. We're still a young franchise, but not quite as young as we once were. But it's quite a history that they've put together in the 30 years here, with between Super Bowls and Hall of Famers and MVPs and the like then too. So it's a blessing to be able to work here with some great people who support all the efforts we make towards our legends. And then it's been a blessing to work with great guys and develop relationships with a lot of guys who, when I was growing up as a child watching the Ravens and playing on Madden and drafting in fantasy football, I was like, man, these guys are like, this is amazing. These guys are so cool. I love to be and to be able to work with them now is pretty neat.
Did you have a Tecmo Bowl, or am I dating myself? Tecmo Bowl, right?
Yeah. I had a Tecmo on. I played a little Tecmo. Graphics have gotten a little better since then.
Thank you.
But yeah, back in the day on the Tecmo, and Madden, it was. That's why I originally wanted to start working here. I wanted to be on the football side and in the scouting and personnel department. I never played down a football in my life, but I played a lot of Madden, so I thought I'd be good at it. Turns out the two aren't exactly connected. So when I started here, I started as an intern or helping out on game days for the Ravens, and I was doing some surveys of fans coming in and out of the games and using a Palm Pilot back in the day for that. And so that's how I started, and then I just stayed in that department.
Wait a second, Palm Pilot. Did you also have one of a BlackBerry? So you could type everything out back in those days as well?
Yeah, the BlackBerry was the next iteration for it.
Yeah.
And then finally the iPhone came along and thankfully solved all the world's problems. So it's been neat to kind of start in one department. I've pretty much been in this one marketing department. My roles changed over the years. When I first started, it was more in like the kids club, youth football space, and then just it was really around COVID. I started doing more with the former players, and it was always a small part of my job, but during COVID, everything kind of shut down really. So we weren't doing youth football clinics. We weren't doing much of the stuff that I was working on, high school 7-on-7s and coaches clinics. So I had a lot more time. So I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to start like calling guys and reaching out and emailing more and sending information. And guys seemed to be receptive to it, and just kind of grew from there. And we've been able to invest more resources into supporting our former players, especially since COVID. And it's been, we've seen a lot of fruits from that. Not anything like super like fan facing, but just in the relationships and the connections and the individual one-on-one talks and ways that we're able to help guys and just connect guys to each other too. If a guy
Matt, I would
out
imagine, please forgive me for interrupting, but I would imagine during some of those phone conversations that you're saying, hey, we've got a program for this, or we've got a benefit package that has this. There's all kinds of information that you have that, is it fair to say that a lot of times guys didn't know anything about it, or they don't know how to connect to it?
Yeah, I think you're right on. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear your experience with it too, because there's so much information. There's so many great resources at the NFL, the NFLPA, the Player Care Foundation, the Gridiron Greats. There's tons of organizations out there doing a lot of great things for former players, but it's coming from so many different places that it's tough to keep track of sometimes, and you almost start to tune it out because it just becomes white noise without thinking about it too much. And yeah, guys have access to great things, but they just don't always use them, not because they don't want to use them, they don't know they're out there then too,
right.
As well. So did you have similar experiences with finding some resources and getting information for some things as well?
You know, it's funny, Matt, I was a player rep for 4 years, and I would tell people about their 401k, or, you know, trying to put money away for their future and doing certain things and how to take advantage of contractual issues. Some guys would have an incentive in their contract, and they just needed to get 2 more plays in, and the coach would bench them, little things like that. But the post-career stuff, my book is going to be called "What Do You Do when You're Done?" What do you do when you're done? And I imagine you get to visit with guys all the time that still are just trying to, how do I get my life going? I've done my whole life. I've played football, and then I've played more football. And then when you're done, you got something else that you got to do that may not be athletically related, and how you prepare for that. And that's where you come back in and you go, hey, there's a program here. There are some internships. There are some interviews that we can connect you with. There are some health benefits that you may not be aware of if you go through an issue, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm sure 100 things more.
Yeah, for sure. There's it's got to be tough to go from a super structured environment where every day is pretty much scheduled out for you from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. or so, even later every day, of everything being provided for you a lot of times in a good way. But then to have it all just abruptly end, because a lot of times guys' careers don't end on their call. They're ended by somebody else making the call for them, and then having to pick it all up and then figure out what's next. And there's not all these people around who are looking to help and to lift you up and to prop you up. And you kind of got to go through some of that individually. And I think it'd be great for talking to some guys that played, like the idea of getting those things in order before that day comes when you are no longer playing. Like, sounds great in theory from what they've said, but to take time away from your job to work on those things is difficult, like, because it's so cutthroat to stay, not just make a roster, but stay on a roster week to week to week. And are you taking time away from studying the playbook and getting an extra lift in and meeting with a coach to take time to take a class to work towards your degree, which again sounds great in theory to do, but then like the practicality of it, like some guys think like if I take time away to work on, to go to this class, then I'm taking effort away from working on my football skills, which is going to keep me in the league. So I need to put off the class and I stay with some of the football stuff going on, which isn't a fault against them at all. It's just how it's a cutthroat business of staying on a roster then too. But when the time does come, when it does end, then it's like a slap in real wake up call to have to get it going then too. So yeah, it can be difficult for sure for some guys.
Well, I'll raise my hand, guilty as charged. There were times where there were some things where friends or teammates that were in different cities where I played, that were starting in the off season to do business endeavors, and they were focusing on other things. And I just decided, no, that's going to take away from what I really want to do. So for some, it's a great idea. You start to transition back into the real world, knowing that there's going to be a finite ending, like you mentioned. And for others, obviously, there's no wrong decision. We don't have the manual yet written. When it is, let me know. I'll get a copy of it. I'll try to make sure that I adhere to it a little bit more. But everybody has a different way of looking at how they want to do it. A lot to uncover there, Matt. And again, Matt Little is our guest here on the show. Matt, if you don't mind, we want to go back with you just a little bit. Before we went on the air, I found out you were born in 1987, so you're still just a young guy. To be perfectly honest, you're a Townsend kid. You didn't have a football team to root for, did you, when you were first growing up? It took a little while for the Cleveland Browns to move this way. The Colts in '83 had left. We'll talk a little bit about the history of the city, but what a great, passionate, independent city Baltimore is. But you didn't have football growing up. How did you get a passion and develop something for athletics outside of the football portion?
Man, no football around here. So it was, we did have a team from the Canadian Football League come down and play in Baltimore for 1 or 2 years. They were the Baltimore Stallions, and how they played in the Canadian Football League, I don't understand the logistics of that, but they did. And they played at Memorial Stadium where the Colts played, and then where the Ravens came to play as well. So they had a little bit of football there. I had a grandfather who was a Washington football fan, so I'd go down to some games down there while I was much younger. And then
RFK? Did you go to RFK?
RFK, yeah.
So you shook when you were just a little boy. It was amazing. A few times when the Redskins, and they were the Redskins back then, when they were bouncing up and down, the fans up on the stands in the outfield, you could feel the whole stadium shake.
Yeah, it was an experience down there for sure. But it was very nice when 1996 came around, and I was 9, so like a perfect time for me personally to have football coming back into town. And it was a real blessing for Mr. Modell to move the Browns to Baltimore, for the Ravens to be the ones named, and then to have football here. And actually in that picture there, it's on the screen, the Baltimore Stallions. On the left side of the pictures, there's a 57 with the black hat on. It's O.J. Brigance. O.J. was one of the only ones, maybe the only one, to win a Canadian Football League Grey Cup, which was like their Super Bowl, and a NFL Super Bowl. He won one with the Ravens in 2000. So he was quite an answer to a trivia question.
Absolutely.
And a great man. OJ still works for the Ravens. He works in our player development office, and does great work here for us.
Does he have that picture hanging up on his wall just so you, when you walk by, can ask him about that, make sure he answers the trivia question?
I'm not sure if it's in the facility. It used to be in the facility. I haven't seen it recently. They've done some remodeling around here, so I need to track that one down. But yeah, OJ is he's one of the best for sure.
Well, they had the Colt colors, the original, the blue, white, a little bit of silver on the shoulders, the original Colts. So would it be a dad, a grandfather? You mentioned him, friends and all that growing up. I mean, there is a very, very specific, small, close-knit family, if you will, of Colt fans that were obviously disappointed in '83. But did they throw around Unitas and Burt Jones and Bubba Smith and some of those great memories? A loss in Super Bowl III to the Jets. Remember, the Colts were the team that basically they were the team of the century, and they lose to the Jets. But 2 years later, they win their first Super Bowl, number 5. Jim O'Brien kicks the field goal. Very proud tradition there in Baltimore. Not only with the Colts being great from the 50s on, but you had the Orioles, who you worked for, a lot of World Series and some American League championships back in the 60s and 70s that although you weren't born yet, I'm thinking that your lineage, your family and the tradition, that obviously was a great connection for all the locals there, correct?
Oh, yeah. Sports are definitely a sense of pride around Baltimore, from the Orioles and the Colts. And they used to have the Bullets back in the day before they moved down to Washington.
They were the Baltimore Bullets. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hear stories about them, at least. But It was
Sale.
Elvin Hayes, Don Chaney. They could bring it. They were champions. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're good.
We'll do that every now and then. We're just going to throw out some names and go. And Vincent, he has no idea who we're talking about because
he mentioned the Bullets, though.
I know. That's your fault. We're going to blame you, Matt.
Yeah, I've definitely heard the names before. So a proud sports tradition here, and even when the Colts did leave, a lot of the Colts players have stayed around and made Baltimore home over the years, and like Lenny Moore lives here still, comes to pretty much every Ravens game.
Lenny.
Yeah, he's one of the best as well, and him and a few guys have passed away recently, the Art Donovans and some of those folks, but we still have other Colts guys live here. Bruce Laird, Stan White. Stan coaches at Calvert Hall High School where I went to. He's a defensive coordinator for the football team there. So he's over there, and we have Rick Volk and Sam Haverlack. And so in addition to the work that we do with the Ravens legends, we also do include the Baltimore Colts legends in a lot of the outreach that we make as well, with ticket invitations to games, newsletters, keep them involved as well. When our owner, Steve Bisciotti, was growing up, he was a Baltimore Colts fan. He has a affinity for the Colts and for that period of his life then too, when they were here. So including them in all the things that we do is something that the organization is very mindful of, and is something that is a priority for us. Just in 2018, we celebrated the 60th anniversary of the greatest game ever played, from 1958 with the Colts versus the Giants. So we had, I think, five to six guys from that team who were still with us. Were able to come to the game and be out on the field. So it's been great we had a 13-year stretch where there was no football here, but the link between the Colts and the Ravens in Baltimore is certainly strong as well, and it's great to have those guys around. And Johnny used to stand on the sideline of a bunch of Ravens games, and it's pretty wild to have the two quarterbacks from Louisville to win MVPs, both do it in Baltimore. With Johnny and then Lamar coming from Louisville, is another interesting little factoid full of trivia facts.
Well, I got to meet Johnny when I was there, and he was on the sideline. I'm like I'm doing now. I was spellbound. I go, that's the man right there. He and the Baltimore in the '58 team changed football forever, because that sudden death game when Alan Amici scores. Football became America's sport. It was fun, and there was just enough time between in plays where fans could talk a little bit and then watch the next play, and people started to love it in a completely different way. Oddly enough, the '58 team was followed by a '59 Baltimore NFL championship team. So, and they were playing either the Browns or the Packers for championships or deep into the playoffs for years. We'll talk a little bit about that more in the future, but obviously for you personally, growing up without a team, finally getting one in Calvert Hall College High School. Tell me a little bit about that and your role in that, because I know Vincent has some follow-up regarding not only famous alumni there, but your association in developing a passion for athletics.
Yeah. Calvert Hall was a huge blessing in my life to go to. My uncles went there, grandfather went there, so it was always instilled in me that I was going to be going to Calvert Hall. And,
now, is that just down the road from where you lived and where you grew up?
Yeah, it was just a 15-minute drive or so.
Okay.
So it was right around the corner from where I was. And like growing up in the elementary and middle school I went to, most of the kids who I went there with, like they went to Calvert Hall. So it was just a perfect like transition. And then with friends and then family, it was perfect. And it was a great place to grow up, and in my teenage years to go through school, to go through athletics, to go and grow as a person, as a man, as an athlete then too. And you can see in the picture George Young Hall. George Young was the old general manager for the the New York Giants back in the day. So he was an alum as well, and donated some funds for a building. So it was actually
well hold on, Matt. Obviously, when Logan pulled up pictures, that's a museum. That's not a high school. Okay, that's a museum, and obviously that's right. That's your look from across the street from where you went to high school, correct?
That is the one of the buildings at Coward Hall. One of the buildings. So it was actually I mentioned like playing Madden, looking to get into working in football. It was understanding when this building came up. I didn't know who George Young was. George Young, this building was built my senior year at high school, and I didn't know idea who this George Young fellow was. But they built the building, and they had a little memorial to him in the building. And I was reading through it. It was like, he's the general manager for the Giants, and was involved in NFL. And it was at that point I kind of had like a moment. I was like, oh, I can work in the NFL then. I can't play football. I never played down in football. But I can work in it. If that guy did it, why can't I do it? So it was nice to have that kind of encouragement to do that then too. And yeah, Coward Hall was a blessing in my life when I was going there. And then I'm fortunate enough to be able to go back now and help out with some coaching, the other football, the world's football, soccer.
FUT
over there. Football over there. So I'm able to get over there and help do some coaching for the soccer program, which is great to be back around and to help with the development of some of the student athletes there as they mature and grow into young men then too.
Vincent, follow up, because I know you had plenty of questions regarding Matt in his early days and how they helped to influence where he is now.
Well, Mr. Little, like I said at the beginning, before we came on there, it's an honor that you came on today. And I see why you had a lot of success. I'm going to start with your high school. Man, your high school really believed in diversity community, balance among human beings, to promote leadership through academics. But most of all, what I loved about your high school was y'all had a balance. No student need to not be achievement and service within the church and the community. So I'm going to give everybody a tidbit today here on 100 Yards Football. See, God is blessing us today because Mr. Little went to the oldest Christian school in the country. Then Mr. George Young. When I found out he was alum, a lot of people don't know this. Mr. Young went to glory, I think, in 2002. But he is responsible for drafting Phil Simms and the greatest defensive player of all time, Mr. Lawrence Taylor out of North Carolina. You brought up Jason Brown. How God is connecting these boats here. But you know, when you study the individual, you go on what other people say. And this head coach said this about this young man. Great Raven, creates a family atmosphere. He inspires people. He motivates people. He cares about people. Coach John Harbaugh said that about you. That's why we blessed today here on 100 Yards Football. But I'm going to talk about your alumni, though. Aaron Amos, Penn State. Juan Dixon, national champion, Maryland. Lawrence Cager. Hey, Logan, go Dogs. Remember in 2019, he was the best receiver in the SEC. Gary Neal, one of the best point guards that played at LaSalle, came from Towson University. Sean Tucker, who right now is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers doing this thing. Then, of course, Dwight Schultz, actor, 18, one of my favorites. Chance Campbell. Remember Chance Campbell 2 years ago was one of the best linebackers in the SEC at Ole Miss, playing with the Tennessee Titans. And oh man, you made my day. God is a blessing. Mel Kiper Jr. Right now, 100 Yards Football, we got royalty in the house. How not you could not been so successful going to that high school, sir. They promote one more time service within the church and the community. And your head coach, John Harbaugh, said this in the article. If anyone want to contest me here on 100 Yards of Football, he said this about Mr. Little one more time. He's always a Raven, because he promotes a family atmosphere and he inspires and motivates former players. Back to you, Hawk.
Well, Matt, what do you got to say about all that? I mean, are you patting yourself on the back? I mean, seriously, that's first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about your high school. Rob, you go there, but you didn't play football. You were a soccer guy, right? The other football, the real one, the one that more people watch than anyone else. When did that start for you, and how did you develop as a high school athlete into the point where you get serious about it, you were motivated to do it, and then able to transfer some of that over to what you're doing today?
I think I had a little internet connection there issue, but I think I got most of it. So I apologize if I missed some of the question. But first, I'd say that introduction from Vincent was very humbling. I appreciate that. And it is definitely Mel Kiper's time to shine right now, his time of year. And we love seeing Mel on all the broadcasts. And he usually gets at least one Calvert Hall mention in each year during his broadcast on draft day. So look forward to hearing that again this year as well. So yeah, playing soccer at Calvert Hall was something that I'd always look forward to. Grew up going to games and watching the teams play when I was younger, and it was a great opportunity. I mean, just being truthful, I wasn't the greatest player. That's what I guess they say, those who can't do or can't play coach a lot of times. So I got into coaching eventually, but I wasn't the greatest player on the team, but was able to have some really impactful coaches who instilled great work ethic and great drive into me, and who I'm still appreciative of this day. At the time, I thought they were not the greatest coaches. I'm like, this guy is a jerk. He's tough. He's this and that. Looking back on it now, it was a real blessing to have them molding me at the time and helping to create values would extend beyond just playing a game of soccer, which especially in America, you can't make a lot of money in, so it's probably for the best. I didn't go down that path, but it was a great opportunity to learn from some great men over there who impacted my life then too, and to help set up for that next step of what college and professional life would be like after that then too.
Excuse me, Hart, can I interrupt for 1 second, please?
Please do.
Okay. Stop the madness right now, Mr. Little. What we have is one of the greatest soccer coaches has ever coached. This gentleman here coached 29 students as a goalkeeper who got scholarships to major programs. Then he was the head coach of the FC USA Soccer Club. Come on, man. And then coached one of the best teams in soccer history, the Baltimore Celtics. We got royalty today. Don't tilt yourself here, Mr. Little. You coached 29 students who went on and got college scholarships at major schools as a goalkeeper. Thank you, sir. Back to you, Hawk.
Come on, man. How could you? All right, he's not going to tout it. We'll have to bring it out of him. Is there a portion? I know this from my high school. There were a couple of kids as freshmen, as 14-year-olds, that were shaving twice a day. They had hair on their chest. They looked like they were full-grown men. And there's others that look like toothpicks. In other words, they weren't going to have any facial hair till they were 16 or 17. You see that all the time. As a coach, you got to learn to develop that this guy is ready to go. And he may be at the peak of his athletic prowess at 14, 15, 16, and may not make it further beyond that. And there's others that aren't ready to go until they're 16, 17, or 18. But boy, they can take off. Were you either one of those? And when do you start recognizing that in terms of your coaching and being able, you got to coach a little bit differently, don't you? Because of the maturity level of some of the players that you have underneath you.
Yeah, I was definitely the toothpick back then. I had a nickname Mr. Glass, as I would often have a broken bone here or there.
Yeah,
something
right.
going on. So it's definitely that guy. And yeah, I think finding those skills in students and young people now is definitely something that is an acquired eye, I guess, as you go. because, like you said, there's guys who are gonna peak right now and be the best right now, but you can also see some guys who it's like, oh, this guy is going to he's going to blossom. Give him 2 years when he's added another 20 pounds on and he's 4 inches taller, and things start to even out between those guys.
When it gets a little bass in his voice, do you recognize any of the kids here in the picture? Is this you?
Yeah, this is a different team, but I do know some of those kids.
Okay.
You got a goalkeeper. The guy in the orange went to Villanova. He went to our rival high school, actually, Loyola Blakefield. You got the guy in the bottom right, like 2 in. He's playing professionally in the U.S. right now. His name's Grant Robinson. I did coach this guy in the front next to the plaque to the right. The bald head, his name's Trey. He coached him in high school as well.
I love it.
He was a good player.
You mentioned Loyola. Did you, because of your location and where you are in the map, you're north of Baltimore City proper, but you're a suburb, aren't you? Townsend's just outside of Baltimore. Would you travel across state lines? Would you go up into Pennsylvania, West Virginia, down south in Virginia, or east to Delaware to play any of your rival high schools for league or for non region games that you would have, or state playoffs?
Yeah, for high school, we stayed pretty much in the Baltimore area. We didn't have to go too far. Just a bunch of Catholic schools in that area. And then for club soccer, though, definitely throughout the country. And then when I was helping coach at college at Loyola University, be around the country for that then too. So definitely got some traveling in throughout the country with soccer, and then I've been fortunate to get some throughout the country and internationally with the Ravens then too, with the international games we've had in London, being able to go over there, and we'll see as they continue to have more and more international games where that could go over the coming years then too.
Yeah, a guest from last week, Patrick Steenberg, was he's semi-responsible for putting some of the high school football games in Ireland and England. He even was responsible for helping put a club team international game in Tanzania, and having the first African American football take place. So the growth of the sport, obviously, and from a marketing perspective, you certainly understand that. That's part of what you do, isn't it? Is here's the game. Let's see if we can't get people here to come, but also expand it and get people in different parts of the world to get excited about it as well.
Yeah, the international stuff, and then the girls' flag football is booming right now.
Oh, no kidding! Yeah,
it's growing like crazy. We have, I think, around 50 girls' public high schools in Maryland that are have flag football now. They're close to hopefully getting some more. Eventually, it'll be like a state-sanctioned sport that operates just like football and volleyball and lacrosse and whatever else then too. So yeah, the girls' flag and international, and then there's so many areas for football that continue to grow. It's been really cool to see over the last few years of how it's continued to find new people, new players, new students to engage with, and to give them opportunities to go play and have fun as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. Here in Georgia, about the same number, 50 or probably a few more than that now. High schools that it's not a club sport; they're sanctioning it, right? And you can have a state playoff and championship game. There's a Nikki Glaser joke during the Tom Brady roast where she says something to the effect of, "Well, now I can root for football because Taylor Swift told me it was okay to do so." But whether it be at the college level, where girls in sororities and they go, maybe that was the case at Townsend a little bit, and they they're there for social reasons, but eventually they go, "Hey, what's happening out there on the field? This is pretty exciting. I'm liking this." And so getting the female portion of our population to fall in love with the game because it's fun and it's good. It's exciting. There's plenty to watch. But for example, the picture that we have here that Logan put together, for obvious reasons, at a flag level, being able to play, that's a completely different experience. And for folks to really fall in love with the game even more because they've participated at it, again, that has to be a dream come true for a lot of people in the marketing world, not only throughout the NFL, but the collegiate level.
Yeah, and these girls can play too. Like you go watch some of these games, like they are chucking it around the field and like going up and making some crazy catches and interceptions and like some crazy flag pull. Like it's fun to watch too. Like going to the state championships last year, this year, it's been enjoyable to watch. And we've been doing girls flag we just recently started doing this push to get it sanctioned in schools. But back before I started helping out with the former players in our legends department here, I was doing mostly youth football, and we used to take a team down to the Pro Bowl each year where they'd have the NFL flag championships, and we had a girls team go and a boys team go. And this was maybe 6 years ago or so. We had a girl that went down. She was a heck of a flag football player, but she was really a basketball player. I was like, oh, she must be good or whatever. I didn't realize till afterwards that she was the number one recruit in the country. Her name's Azzy Fudd. She plays on UConn right now.
Is that all? Wow.
She dropped like 29 points the other night when they beat South Carolina by 30 points or so. She's had some injuries and whatnot, but she's a heck of a player. But she was playing flag football, and just because it was fun, just because it did something different to do, she enjoyed being with her friends. And like I said, these girls are really, really talented who are playing as well.
Well, I know from the college level, there are coaches all over. But Urban Meyer used to say when he was at Ohio State, I want you to play baseball or run track or be able to play basketball. I encourage that because we think that your ability to transfer what you learn from one sport and connect that to it could make you a better football player, a better athlete, a better person. You get to experience different aspects of there you go. How about that, Matt?
There she is.
Yeah.
There's stats that come out every year around the draft of how many of these guys who were drafted this year were dual sport athletes, multi-sport athletes in high school. And it's a staggering number each year. And there's still high school coaches around to push back. It's no, we need them to play football year round, and we need them to lift year round and not do track or not do anything, which is so silly when you see the stats, when you hear, like you're talking about, Harper, with Urban Meyer talking about it, and you see these stats of the guys who are getting drafted playing multi-sports. Like it's possible. It definitely makes sense. And hopefully more kids.
What would a second sport for you be? Soccer being number one, but what would your second sport be if you could go back and do it all over again?
If I could do it all over again, probably basketball.
Okay.
I did play some golf growing up, but basketball, I wish I would have stuck with that more. I got away from it. I wasn't like very good, but it would have been fun to keep playing.
That doesn't matter. Yeah, but just for fun. Now, usually if you're 5'4", you're not going to do that. That's when you want to pick up the golf clubs. And speaking of which, there's golf all over the place. What a beautiful part of the country it is where you grew up. Even just south of your campus there at high school, there's a nice golf course and a couple others that are nearby. So I can imagine, that was a pretty easily accommodating sport that you could pick up. A little expensive to get good at it, but nonetheless, it was available.
Yeah, that's how I got in with the Ravens. Actually, I was working at a golf club that I knew that a bunch of Ravens executives went to, and I'd worked there for a few years and just talked to everyone. Every once in a while they come through, and then one day I was able to caddy for a few of them. And talk to them, and then that's when they said, "Oh, why don't you come and help out on a game day?" That's when I did that and started helping out, and kind of went from there. But it was through golf that I was able to find a way in here, because I didn't know anybody. Like growing up, I didn't know who to talk to or anything, so I tried to find them where they were. Went to help out or work at the golf course, make a few bucks, and then met some good people along the way, and it all worked out from there.
Between George Young and connecting the dots with being a caddy. How about that?
Exactly.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And then you had the courage, some would say the bravery, to be able to say, hey, I am interested. You mentioned it kind of casually, is there a way that I can, and I'm going to use this paraphrasing, is there a way for Matt Little to cash in on this relationship that you have between some of these executives and their love for golf, and how do I get through the door? Yeah, just go visit with somebody. You asked. Good for you. Love it.
It was something that I think I learned through high school and the hard work of playing sports and all that stuff. Like you don't have a lot of things given to you in life. Like you got to go figure out a way to make it happen. And if the first door closes, like what's the second, third, fourth, fifth door look like then too, to make it work.
Well, after high school, and you had a great experience there, obviously you got to do a lot of different things, and your classes were with clean glass, and you had museums and everything else that were there. Talk about college, close by, right? You didn't have to go very far. Did you even live on campus there at Towson?
No, I lived at home when I went to Towson. I lived at home. It was actually a shorter commute than it was to high school. So it was a great opportunity there to take classes in the sport management department. They had to get involved to have opportunities to learn and to grow and to be ready for when opportunities did arise in the job I really wanted at the Ravens. And it was a good learning opportunity and something that was very useful in the career progression then too. Was it
Towson State back then?
No, they dropped the state, but before then, but
okay.
People still called it Towson State, and then people that went there would get angry, and it was like a whole thing. But it's been Towson University, and I think it used to be like Towson State Teachers College back in the day. Then it was Towson State, then it was Towson University. So they changed the name so much, but people get angry. Like, oh, stop changing the name, then you don't have to. People won't get angry at you.
Well, in terms of their football program and athletics, they've been pretty stout there, right? The Colonial Athletic Association, all the smaller schools that are a part of that Eastern Seabelt, going all the way up to Maine, I would believe, and the Black Bears, and then Richmond. I think there's some others. James Madison was a part of that years ago. So obviously, some really, I'll call them prominent schools that have been around for hundreds of years that also have some really good athletes that give it everything they have, right?
Yeah, we've had a few Towson University guys have played here at the Ravens End too. Terrence West, Gerard Shepard. We've had a few guys come through as well. So it's been neat to see guys who they were younger than me, but I remember watching them at Towson and then watching them here at the Ravens, and then now working with them as former players now. Need to have like that kind of full circle piece to it then too. And it's a great athletic facilities they have over there at Towson, and between the football, basketball, lacrosse, they definitely have some quality sports over there too as well.
What was your focus from an educational standpoint? And was that really something you were incredibly serious about? Or was it just, I'm not really sure, I'm going to figure this out? I mean, what was there a point or a specific portion of your life there at college where you decided, okay, it's time for me to get my act together and I'm going to start really focusing in on this? Fill in the blank for that.
I think I was too serious the whole time, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. I always knew I wanted to go to a school that had a football team and that I could be close enough so I could find a way to intern with the Ravens and volunteer and help out there. And I always knew I wanted to do sport management. So I was always very, very focused on that piece of it. Maybe not so much the social side of it then too, of college. But the sport management and working at football were always like, I was zoned in the whole time with that.
Share a little bit with me about the sport, the study of sport management in terms of there's 30 baseball teams, there's 32 NFL football teams, there's only a limited number of there's 30 basketball teams. there's only a limited number of jobs, and there's schools all over the country that offer this type of programming. What was it that got you to start thinking, well, outside of golfing and being a caddy, how can I prepare myself to be the best in terms of the options that are available, to where you send a resume or you apply for a position somewhere that you would be the guy that they make that selection for?
That's a good question. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like I knew I wanted to work in sports, sport management, but like I didn't really know what that meant. So I was like, oh, I'll just do that. It sounds really cool. And I wanted to work for the Ravens, and then like I just happened to the executives at the golf course, they put me in touch with somebody in marketing. So that's just kind of where I went, and then I just stayed in there ever since now. So yeah, I didn't really have. I was very limited on what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to work for the Ravens. Like I didn't want to work full time for the Orioles or the Buccaneers or the Chargers or the Spurs or the Warriors. Or no offense to those places, but
right,
I wanted to work for the Orioles, or for the Ravens. So I just knew that like I just needed a chance to get like a foot in the door. And like once that happened, like I wasn't gonna let it close, and I'd be there like pretty much whatever they needed. I'd be there, whether it was like cleaning up trash after an event, whether it was setting up tents and tables and check-in. And I remember one time they had a youth football event coming up. It was a flag football tournament they were running, and the guy who was running it from the Ravens, he's like, "Hey, we got to get there early. Be there like early." So I was like, "What's early?" He goes, "Just to get there early." I'm like, "I don't know what that means." So I showed up like 3 a.m. And he got there like 6 or so. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, you told me to get here early. I didn't know what that meant. I wasn't going to be late." So I had to get. So just making sure that like when the opportunity did come, like not to mess it up then.
I'm sure when the folks arrived that needed you, who's the guy with the bloodshot eyes?
Exactly.
6 empty cups of coffee that there. But you know what? It's hey, you got to do what you got to do. And you mentioned in '96, and the reason that's kind of cool is because the Browns were having some issues in Cleveland. The Raiders had left Oakland and were down in Los Angeles. So the NFL was kind of changing and opening up the possibilities of franchising movement. And they took advantage of that. And then Art Modell brings a team that didn't even have a name, he pulled a name out of a hat that they had agreed upon with Edgar Allan Poe, and they got the Ravens. Was that the moment that you said, that's my team and I'm going to work for them, or at least my passion? Or did it take something else a little bit later on after the team had already developed and grown into what they were here in the Baltimore area?
Yeah, I still remember that day of the name being announced, because they had like a phone in, like you'd call.
Yeah,
they were taking votes, so you'd call the Baltimore Sun, like the local newspaper, and tell them which name you wanted. I remember doing that as a child. Like it wasn't.
You called?
Yeah, I remember.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What was your choice?
The Ravens.
Was it really? Okay. You didn't want the
I think they had like Marauders was one of them. Like Americans maybe was another one. I think they had 3 or 4. But thankfully I ended up with the Ravens. And then it wasn't really until the 2000 Super Bowl that I was like hooked on it. It wasn't until that, like before I'd watch games, I'd go to games. I remember going to the last game at Memorial Stadium in '97 when everybody was like breaking the stadium apart and ripping the chairs out. I remember that game, going there and leaving with a chair in my hand. I don't know where the chair is now, which is unfortunate because now I work in the legacy engagement and we save our history, which would be really nice to have that chair.
No kidding. Yeah. But were they broken chairs? Did you break a couple chairs? Now, I won't tell anyone. Vincent and I will keep this to ourselves. You didn't break any chairs. You took a wrench and a Phillips head screwdriver and unscrewed that properly.
I just happened to pick up a chair that was not attached to the ground anymore.
Okay, so
how it got there, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I I did have a chair in my hand as I
Okay.
left. But yeah, it wasn't until 2000 and the Super Bowl run that I was like, wow, this is what pretty cool. This is kind of what I want to do. And afterwards then too. So it was. I do remember going to the first game at M&T Bank Stadium against the Steelers.
The Steelers, yeah.
And you were in that game, yeah.
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't help the team win. I promoted losing. But talk real quick, the Memorial Stadium, the seating in that was absolutely atrocious for football, wasn't it? I mean, it was almost the most of the seats were in the end zone on the right side of where the television booths would be and show you the outfield and everything associated with it. So in essence, you had to develop a new stadium to fit with modern times. That stadium was old. It was antiquated. I'm being respectful of it, but there had to be a change. And playing at M&T, and I think it was Raven Stadium at Camden Yards for that first game. They didn't have a corporate sponsor yet.
Yeah. Raven Stadium at Camden Yards, and then it went to PSI Net, and now it's at M&T Bank. And I think they just signed, I forget how long their renewal was, but I think another 20 years or so. It's M&T Bank Stadium coming up. And there's a ton of renovations going on right now. They have some new club spaces coming into the stadium. They put some new suites in, a bunch of cool spaces to pregame and tailgate and all that stuff at the stadium, even year-round stuff there too. But yeah, the stadium at the setup at Memorial Stadium was not ideal. And I remember hearing stories from folks who did work here the first game when they were back in '96 of like leaks happening in the stadium, like things dripping on people, of things broken, all this kind of stuff. Even like an hour before the first game was going to happen back in Memorial Stadium then too. So yeah, I don't think it was ideal. They had a plane crash into Memorial Stadium back in like the 80s when the Colts were playing. There was a plane that had gotten too low and crashed right into the top of the stadium. Thankfully, I think it was my uncle was just telling me the story at I think Christmas time or so. I think it was a blowout, and most of the fans had like moved down from who were in the top of the stadium and moved down to the bottom, and the plane came. There's no injuries or anything, which is crazy. It was a small plane that crashed in the stadium while the game was going on, which was pretty wild.
I would think the pilot would want to avoid having 30, 50, 60. There you go. Look at Logan. It's unbelievable. Yeah, game day. The memorabilia, you mentioned the seats and all that, but I would think the memories that people had and just trying to bring that good feeling back of Raymond Berry and Johnny Unitas and Burt Jones and Bubba Smith and people that were a part of John Mackey, the great history of that team. Different organization, different colors, different logo. Everything was different, but just trying to reassimilate that. Talk about what that was like for you as just a young boy, being a part of connecting the dots between the past, which you can't bring back, and then now setting up for a future for those 2 years while they played at Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, it was definitely heard some cool stories from back then. I don't remember a ton of it, but I remember, I think it might have been the last game at Memorial Stadium. I think Johnny U was on the field, and like Michael Jackson, a wide receiver for the Ravens, was on the field at the end of the game. I think it was the end of the game.
Oh my gosh, yeah, thank you.
Johnny threw a ball to Michael Jackson, like the ceremonial, like passing of the torch of from the Colts to the Ravens. And
how about that?
And that was it was pretty cool. I don't remember it. I remember like watching videos and pictures and hearing stories, but I don't remember it personally. But yeah, I think that was a pretty cool moment of transition from one group to the next.
Yep,
and still being around too. Like you said, Johnny was on the sideline for games when you were playing, and other guys were still around and continue to be around today too, which is neat.
Yeah, that's a real cool part of it. And I guess Johnny and the other names that we've mentioned in the past all the Colts don't exist in Baltimore anymore. So it must be very interesting how they assimilate into the different franchise, because they're not the Browns. They never were. In fact, they were probably enemies of, many of the Browns, were Jim Brown or Otto Graham or, any of the players from back in those days. But I got to see Johnny on the sideline and shake his hand. And he didn't have the crew cut back then. His hair was a little bit longer, not much, but a little bit longer. But he took really good care of himself. And even though he was aging and wasn't going to be with us for very much longer, died way too young, but a guy that really appreciated what Baltimore did to change his life, and how people in Baltimore embraced him just about everywhere he went.
Yeah, and Johnny's son, Chad, actually worked at the Ravens for a handful of years in around 2010 or so. He looked exactly like his dad, has the cut as well. And so another Colts to Ravens transition.
Yeah, amazing times. And then that stadium, so 2 years there, and then M&T, and things really have developed. You get there in 2006, if I'm not mistaken, right? That's your first full year. You met with the guys that were playing golf there. You start in the marketing department there pretty quickly. I have a friend who's in the military. He's a major for the U.S. Marine Corps. He's retired, but he put it this way. Here's how the math works, Harper. For every 15 guys that are out there fighting in a field or on a beachhead, there's about 85 guys that are behind the scenes that are making it all happen. You have medics, you have cooks, you've got mechanics, you've got countless other people that are there for support. If you look, I'm going to be real quick with this. There's 4 guys in legal, 7 guys in finance. There's 9 people that are in pop culture, another 9 in IT, community relations. There's 9 or 10, and there's different types of community relations that you have. Promotions, there's 8. Team sales, 22. Security, groundskeeping, sales, marketing, which you're a part of. There's 21 people in that department. Media, player, personnel, relations, trainers, equipment managers, etc. Is that relationship 15 to 85 per 100? Is that even close to what you've got there with the Ravens and the organization, the way that it's built?
That's interesting to hear that, those numbers. And yeah, it's definitely grown like crazy in the years I've been here. I remember when we actually have a 25th anniversary of the first Super Bowl coming up this coming season in 2025. Yeah. And I pulled the list of all the staff from 2000 just to see who was working here then and still here now.
How big is the list compared to what it is now?
It's not even close. It's crazy. I'm like, how did you guys do all this work back then? So yeah, it's grown exponentially. I think that's in teams across the league of whether it's digital media or all the departments, like you were saying, Harper, they just continue to grow and grow. There's so many ways to engage with fans and engage with sponsors and the legal stuff that needs to happen now and the public relations and the community relations. Like there's just so many more avenues to connect with people and to grow the game of football, which is awesome. Just need people to do it now from our side. And so it's definitely growing. And then on the football side too of helping guys and figuring out from the coaching side there that staff continues to grow. The scouting staff continues to grow. The medical, the training, the strength and conditioning, everything's so personalized and so individualized now. With each guy has their own diet plan that they work with the nutrition department on. There's the fields that have to be upkept at a certain level, and there's we have I think 4 to 5 full-time grounds crew at the stadium for the field.
At the stadium, and then for your practice facility too. There's a different 4 or 5 guys.
There's like at the stadium, so there's 5 guys that their only job is the field that gets used 10 times a year or so. That's I'm not diminishing their work. I'm just speaking to like the precision that goes into the work that they do and too. So everything is just so much more so dialed in from when I started, from when you played here, when the Ravens started. Like it just continues to amp up and up, and it's I can only imagine where it's going to go from here. Jeez.
Well, having the ability to recognize there's areas for us to grow and being a part of that. Your specific portion of dealing with former players, the legends. And by the way, our senior manager guest today, Matt Little, is legacy engagement. And how did that come to fruition for you? What you've gone from marketing, which is basically how do we get everything out there? Was there a specific person that said, Matt, you know what, I've got a job and I've got you, and I want to connect these two dots because I think you'd be the right person to help with that? How did that come about for you specifically?
Yeah, it was always like a little bit of my job. And then during COVID, when we started connecting more and more with guys and they were receptive to it and interested in it, and we could see that it was making a difference, we could really tell like we were just starting to scratch the surface with the things that we were able to communicate and to provide and to help guys with then too. And I mean, without the guys that played here, like the Ravens wouldn't be the Ravens without guys that played in 96, 97, 99, 2000, 2001, like all the way through. So serving them and helping them and supporting them and honoring them and connecting them is a huge piece of what we do and what we need to do as well. It's something that is impactful to the organization. Like when former players come back, it's impactful to the fans. It's impactful to the team. But then it's reciprocal too. Like that coming back is impactful for the legends who come back as well, who engage. So it wasn't. I don't think there was ever like a one time where it was like, this is what you need to do. But like, I just kept kind of like doing more and more of it personally. And then we had a person who was working with me on youth football who was growing and was able to like take over a lot of the youth football stuff. And it just kind of seamlessly happened where he ran with the youth football. I ran with the legacy engagement, and we've kind of continued to grow each one and to hopefully push forward for each side of it then too.
Voila, there's putting peanut butter and chocolate together, you get Reese's peanut butter cup. You've been absolutely amazing the way you keep people connected. Jay Howell is a former major league pitcher and a neighbor of mine, and I remember him telling me the story. He said he's got Clayton Kershaw during Dodger spring training sitting on the bench, and up walks Sandy Koufax. And he sits down next to him. And there's just enough of a space in between. And Jay, being the personality that he is, he sits in between the two of those knuckleheads while they're having a great conversation. He ends up, hey, so what are you guys talking about? And I imagine there's a kind of a moment like that you get to have every now and then, where you get to see a Johnny Unitas or a Jim Erman or John Dutton or Bubba Smith, or guys that have played from the past, obviously those that are still with us, that you are able to connect the dots and see the hug, you see the handshake, you see the arm around the shoulder, where these guys haven't seen each other in a while, but they miss each other. They just value the friendship, not only from teammates, but guys from different eras, guys where Ray or I played with Jonathan Ogden and Rod Woodson, for example. I can't imagine him coming and being a former Steeler and not having a Steeler relationship, but getting together with all these guys. You get to see that. You get to help put these things together for these guys. I think that just must be one of those moments where you look around and you go, is this cool or what? I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And last year was the first year we did a reunion that wasn't like team specific. So we've done like Super Bowl reunions and different team specific reunions. But last year during minicamp, we just did a general Legends reunion. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go 100% because like there'd be guys from 96 and there's going to be guys from 2016. So like it's a big gap. But it was so cool. It was so cool to see guys who never even played together, but had the bond of playing here that just immediately drew them together, and the conversations they had and the support they showed, and their families were here as well, and having them be a part of it was so cool. Oftentimes like I see guys who had played together and connecting them, and that's special as well. And that's one of my favorite things is when we have some appearances at times for former players. Sometimes I'll go pick them up at the hotel and drive them out there, and just hearing the stories that they're talking about amongst each other. It might be like 2 or 3 guys in a car, and like it's not quiet at all. It's not quiet at all along the way, and just hearing them catch up and laughing and sometimes it's real talk and it's family stuff and wives and struggles and stuff. Sometimes it's remember that time back when this guy did that and he did this and we went here and coach said that and laughs and all too. So it's quite fun to be part of those stories then too.
Vincent,
what was it like to work with this outstanding young man from my hometown, the 901, Mr. Michael Orr, out of the University of Mississippi? Look at that smile. Look at that.
Michael Orr, he was a great man to have around here. Won a Super Bowl with us, first round draft pick. Just a great guy who loved to help out, to help the community, to make the world a better place. And the Ravens are a better organization for having Michael Orr a part of it for sure.
See, I told you something about that 901. The blood is very strong in Memphis, Tennessee.
Well, most definitely. And, every guy that is there right now, Matt, eventually will one day get a call from you or an email, right? Or you're connecting people, and the list constantly grows as to the amount of alumni, quote unquote, the legends that are a part of it. I guess your ability to develop that. Do you get a time during the preseason or when meetings start, or even when the Players Association comes in, where you just kind of let everybody know at the beginning of the year, this is who I am and what I do?
Not really, because most guys who are playing want nothing to do with me. Because
I know they don't. They're really. That's later. I don't want to deal with that guy now. You're the bad guy.
If I'm talking to them, they're like, "Oh, I'm not getting that check anymore." Then, so I don't have too much, which makes it a little awkward sometimes. When a guy does finish playing, when I reach out and they're like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, I walked by in the cafeteria a few times, or whatever.
Yeah.
But our director of player engagement, Jameel McLean, he played here. He was on the second Super Bowl team. But he works here full time now, and he's an awesome advocate to help with those connections. And so helping to connect me with guys who recently played and have retired and telling them like, "Oh, Matt's a good guy. Listen to him. Like, at least take his call. Like, don't totally screen him." So he's been great, and others in the organization have too, from our PR department and community relations and our player services department. We have Miss Val. She does everything here. She helps with a lot of that stuff, and Megan McLaughlin, one of our, she works in the coach's office, helps with a bunch of that, and we have a lot of people who are willing to help with that, who do interact with the players, which make it easier, because it'd be super awkward if I'm just like randomly calling people. They're like, "Who are you?" So it's been very supportive environment around here, though.
Well, they called him the Turk. The Turk was this invisible human being that was responsible for tapping you on your shoulder and say that you needed to turn your playbook in. Coach wanted to see you in his office. You're not the Turk, but you're close enough to that lineage to where people want to only have contact with you after they're done, and they're ready to smile and tell great stories and have a car ride from the hotel to wherever your destination is going to be with. Vincent, do you have anything else? Because I know I've been hogging up the whole conversation here with Matt.
Well, I want to talk about, in my final question of the evening to you, and again, man, it's an honor to have you on today. Talk about y'all foundations, man. This is what I really gain respect for the Baltimore Ravens organization, ROCA, ROCA. Their 5-year partnership where y'all donated $300,000 to address youth violence in Baltimore, poverty, racism. But what I liked about it is that y'all took 450 young men in a 24-month program, and 80% had no arrest. You don't know how much that made me proud, man, to read that yesterday. That is awesome. That's deep. based on what is happening right now, man, that's what I say. When you do the talking, you're putting in the work. The Ravens organization is putting in the actions. Let me put them numbers out there again. 450 young men through a 24-month program, 80% no arrest. That's what I'm talking about, putting the work in. Talk about that, and that's my final question here on 100 Yards of Football.
Yeah, it's a great amount of work that the organization does in the community. From our community relations department, our president, our owner is very involved in all these things, and the things that we're able to do have made a huge impact in people's lives, and it's not even football related. It's not even wins, losses related. And like the mission here at the Ravens is to win football games, serve our fans, and be a positive force in the community. So there's those are the three things that we look to do in all the decisions and all the efforts we make. And being a positive force in the community is obviously in that three there as well. So education, environment, health and wellness, homelessness, military, and I think the social justice. So they're like the six pillars that we base a lot of the community work that we do off of. And our community relations department does an incredible job of nurturing relationships with these organizations that we work with, getting players out in the community, working with players to find what they're passionate about too. And I think that's a huge piece of it, in knowing what they want to do, because they're more likely to do things than if it's something that hits home for them. And so if our community relations department knows that a certain guy is very passionate about single mothers, they can help create events and direct them to organizations that are gonna work in those spaces then too. So it's a multifaceted thing, and like Harper was talking about earlier, with the growth of the departments and the staff and all, with that we're able to do some cool things like that that you mentioned, Vincent. So it's definitely a great piece of pride for, I think, all the people in the organization to see all the things that we're able to do in the community. Again, not even wins and losses related for football. Wins and losses.
Making it different. Go ahead, Vincent. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And two other stats I want to put out here, and I hope other organizations are listening. The Baltimore Ravens, I think, over a 3-year period, donated 207,270 books in the community. And then, since you mentioned homeless, I want all these other organizations to hear this. No offense to nobody else. They donated over 10,000 coats to the homeless. Back to you, Harper.
Oh, I think it's great. And your ability to affect the community. Here's the way I look at it. As the game grows and the salary cap grows, there are differences in money that was available to help in certain areas that wasn't available years ago. There's just a trickle down, and that's from ownership all the way down to the guy that cleans the floor, isn't it, Matt?
Oh yeah, it's everybody's fully invested in doing it all together, and it's definitely a group effort from top to bottom, and it's a great group of people that we're able to work with every day on all these efforts in too.
And one of the things that I noticed, now I've gone to your LinkedIn page and I'm actually looking at it right now. I'm going to read from it. You have licenses and certifications. You had mentioned earlier that, a lot of guys that don't want to do any of that stuff, they don't want to go to, finish up their college classes while they're playing, but you have safe sport training, you have heads up concussion training, and certifications with that. You've got some goalkeeping stuff, which I have no idea why you would want anything to do with that. And I tease with that, but also suicide prevention. If we can be serious a little bit right now, just your ability to recognize, or at least attempt to recognize, that somebody might be going through a problem, and you just being aware of that to where you can kind of hook them up with the right people in the direction to go. Just saving one life is so much worth that training, wouldn't it be? I mean, these are things that the team, the NFL are offering, and you're taking advantage of it. Good for you.
Yeah, the NFL does a great job offering these different trainings out to former players to staff as well. So there's a lady in the NFL Total Wellness department or office. Her name is Anyaka. She does some of these trainings, and they're super impactful. And like you mentioned, if we can save one life through this, it's worth the 2, 3, 4 hours of time it took to take the class. And it's nothing like these trainings aren't anything where I'm going to be the one more than likely to like solve everybody's problems, but can you help to triage in that immediate thing that's going on to get them to a safe place, a safe person who can help and who is licensed as a psychologist and all that, to make kind of those longer term investments. But being able, like you said, Harper, to spot things, to see, to try to just have an ear to what might be going on in somebody's life. And they might not be saying it specifically, or sometimes they might, sometimes they might not be. So can you try to read between the lines to see this guy might need a little something, a little help,
Sure.
a call, to check in, and sometimes it's not even me or other Legends directors around the league. It's sometimes it's more well received from a former teammate. So maybe there's a guy who we know who is close with him, and hey, can you give him a call? He just needs somebody to reach out to him.
A pat on the back, a little bit of direction, a little help, whatever it is. You don't want to see. We've got stories of I've lost friends, and I know other, NFL legends that were sleeping under a bridge, and this is it can be changed. So anything that you obviously do specifically to help that in any direction, God bless you. I tip my hat. And I appreciate that from you for a personal standpoint, but then as an organization and then as a league, every little bit helps. Matt, we're running out of time. I know that you're running low on your battery there with your computer. What's next for you? How do you get ready for training camp and all that, and hopefully bring another Super Bowl championship to Baltimore?
That's the plan. So we got a little bit of downtime now, and then OTAs will be starting, and mini camps, and then another little break, and then training camp, and here we go again. And hopefully, I think the Super Bowl is in San Francisco next year. Hopefully, I'll be out there, and we can get a third one into the trophy case down here in Baltimore.
Did you? I know that players or wives. I know some staff would get replica either trophies or rings or pendants for some of the ladies. Was there anything that was distributed your way that you can share?
Yeah. So when we won the Super Bowl in 2012, all the staff got rings too.
Awesome.
So we have one, which is a pretty cool piece to have in the trophy case. And there was some other stuff that you could purchase if you're interested as well. But the ring was like the top one out.
Oh, absolutely.
What else do I need? I got a ring.
Hey, if you ever can't sleep at night, instead of counting sheep or counting the number of holes in the tiles there from your dorm room in college, do you ever count all the diamonds that you have in your Super Bowl ring? Is that helpful?
It'd be a lot to count. I think it was like 261, I think was the number. I could be off on that a little bit, but
yeah.
Somewhere.
Hey, mine only has 249. What the heck is going on? Austin, whoever the company is.
Hey, I need to make sure I get a firm count on that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for giving us so much of your time here. We greatly appreciate it. Vincent, final thoughts or any questions that you have for Matt before we go?
We'd like to say thank you for coming on here, 100 yards of football from the bottom of my heart. Right quick, Mr. Little, who y'all taking in the draft first round? Getting information. Who y'all looking at?
I'll walk down to the draft room and we'll zoom you guys in then.
Okay. Yeah. Well, considering you're picking so late and have been for such a long time, it's almost an honor that you do that. You don't want to be in the top 5 or top 10 picks, right? That means you didn't have a very good year, and obviously, ever since you've been there, the organization has just been first class in so many ways, on the field, off the field, but especially on the field, with all those playoff performances and getting there in the drafts and doing the best you can with the guys that you have on that roster. Coach Harbaugh. By the way, I want to mention I played with Chuck Smith, and Chuck's on the roster right now too. And who else do we have? T. Martin, former national champion at the University of Tennessee. Chuck Pagano. Chuck, I don't know if he has time to coach because he's on the podcast so many times. Randy Brown played or at 21 years now in the NFL, and obviously Joe Delisandris, who passed away this year. Close group of people, but really a good group that John has put together, and you get to be a part of that organization as well. Just the coaches, the players, everybody that is a part of it, and you being a part of the alumni and keeping them close knit and together. Thank you so much for all that you do to make at least your portion of the 32-team National Football League a little bit better every day.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and great to meet you, Vincent. Great to catch up, Harper. And it was great to talk to you guys and enjoy the conversation. And best of luck with everything you guys have going on in 2025. And look forward to keeping in touch.
I appreciate you being here and being a part of it. And folks, we would have gone probably for a lot longer, but Matt's batteries, we need to trade in some of those diamonds that he has in his ring for more lithium. We're going to mine lithium so we get some extra battery life. But thank you so much, Matt, for your time. We appreciate it. For Vincent Turner, for Logan Landers, our producer and engineer, I'm Harper LaBelle saying thank you, folks, for tuning in to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. Our guest today has been the Legacy Engagement Manager of the Baltimore Ravens, and that's Matt Little. Thank you so much, Matt. Have a great day, everybody. We appreciate you being a part of the show. Have a fantastic rest of your day.